We want to be joined right now on the program here on Live Now from Fox with Sheriff Mark Lamb of Pinal County in Arizona, and he joins us now. Sheriff, thanks so much for being with us. I wanted to ask you, you have been kind of front and center here in the wake of the lifting of Title 42. What have you seen in the last 24 hours? I know you've been on the phone with a lot of people here in Arizona. What are they telling you?
You know, a lot of it's impacting Yuma County right now, Cochise County. Yuma County had 1,550 people that they apprehended yesterday on the border. They have 4,000 in custody right now, Border Patrol there. That's a 220% more than what they're capable of having. So they're getting hit pretty hard. And not only Yuma County is a lot of people from all over the world. So you've got Mauritanians, which is a place in Africa, Senegal, Ukraine, Russia, Peru, China. They got them from all over the place. The Tucson sector, we're seeing it. It hasn't slowed down at all for us. It's actually increasing. The gotaways, the amount of traffic stops we're having. So, yeah, it's just it's been a problem, and it's getting worse now that they removed Title 42.
Yeah, so just yesterday, officials in Yuma, the mayor specifically, Mayor Nichols there, calling on the Biden administration to declare a national emergency over this. Do you agree that that should take place? And if it does, what would that look like?
You know, it's pretty frustrating that they didn't prepare better for this. Whether it's from the national level, state level, they had a long time to know that they were going to remove Title 42. They didn't prepare for it. But we got to fix the problem now. And if it's declaring a state of emergency, then that's something we have to look at. I am very reluctant anytime the federal government declares a state of emergency because oftentimes they start taking away our rights and our freedoms under that. Thomas Paine has a great quote. He says that the greatest tyrannies are always perpetrated in the name of the noblest causes. This is something that they created. They should have fixed a long time ago. They didn't. And now we're having to deal with it on a local level.
So we just spoke with one of our reporters at the El Paso Juarez sector live, and she was essentially saying that the really influx, the surge was happening in the days prior to Title 42 ending, and then midnight happened last night, and even today, they haven't seen the surge, the influx that they were anticipating. You're saying it's the very opposite here in some of the border sectors in Arizona.
Yeah, that's not what we're hearing from the guys right on the ground. They're saying that this is a surge. Yes, they were surging the last few days. That's true. But it's not like they had tonight or last night to get in and then it was going to go away. This is going to be an ongoing problem for as long as this administration is in office because they've shown no fortitude, willpower to stop the problem. They just want to continue to blame Congress or blame the previous president. They just will not accept the responsibility, which is theirs as leaders in this country, whether it's Joe Biden as the president or Mayorkas as the DHS secretary.
So we know Title 42 was in place, sir, for what, almost 3 years because of the pandemic. Now it goes back to what is known as Title 8. And some of the experts that we have been speaking to, they tell us that Title 8 is even more onerous, even more restrictive. Do you have confidence in that pre-existing rule that will maybe help stem some of this migration?
Yeah, they're not wrong. You know, Title 8 is a little bit more complex, which is why the Border Patrol agents have been using so successfully Title 42 for the last 2 years. Now that tool's been taken away. Title 8's going to have to come into play, and you can already see the administration trying to change the rules to just allow anybody in, whether they have criminal histories, whether they have good intentions. That is a scary thought for Americans. It's a scary thought for us in local law enforcement. And I'm glad that the judges decided to say, no, you can't just change the rules at the last second.
Yeah, I want to talk about these kind of court rulings over the last 24 hours that have blocked what the Biden administration and the DHS have put in place in the wake of this about, detainees and parole releases. And so that program has been, put on hold for now. And so you are seeing, if that program were to go into effect, that some of these illegal migrants would go out, be released into, mainland USA. They would have 60 days to self-report back to an ICE facility to then have their processes and kind of claims for asylum adjudicated. Is that putting a lot of onus on the illegal migrant, the individual themselves, to self-report? Are we kind of hoping that they would follow this? Is that called enforcement or not?
Well, I wish this government had the same faith and trust in the American people as they do in the people that come to this country illegally. The statistics show, and I think it's, I could be wrong, but I think it's as high as 80% fail to show up to their court dates after they've been released. It is a lot to expect some of these people to show back up to a court date in a state. Maybe they've already migrated into a state in the middle of this country, and now you're asking them to come back and show up to a court for immigration. I just don't have the same faith that this federal government has in the people that have come here illegally. Why? They broke the law in the first place to come to this country. Why would you now anticipate that they're going to follow the law?
Yeah, but now CBP in a statement saying that they will comply with the federal judge's ruling there in Florida. How hard, though, will it be for these Border Patrol agents to comply with this? Because we are seeing at this very moment overcrowding, underfunding, understaffing for some of these facilities.
Yeah, I feel bad for CBP, Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, because they're bearing the brunt of the bad decisions of this administration and the poor planning that this administration has had, and their inability to secure our border. And now they're putting even more workload on an already overtaxed and overworked a group of people, which is the men and women that work very hard at the Border Patrol, ICE, CBP. My heart goes out to them because this is probably going to create more work. But this administration also has a track record of not following or not adhering to what the courts tell them to do. And they just continue to push the bounds of the Constitution. They continue to push the bounds of the law and what they should be doing, and until the courts put them in check. And I hope that they will listen to the courts. It's going to be a lot of work, but we owe it to the American people to do the work to protect our communities.
Yeah. I want to pose this to you, though. There was 24,000 Border Patrol agents roaring to go yesterday once midnight hit, 1,500 active duty U.S. Army troops, more than 2,000 National Guard members. We also were speaking to some officials, and I'm going to bring up our El Paso reporter there, saying that the force there worked with the kind of influx of this muscle from the federal government. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think anytime you put enough agents on the ground and you stop it and you show people that we're not going to just let you walk in, it's going to have a positive effect. And imagine that, a novel idea. How about we just enforce the law and hold people accountable? Because they were ready for it. Those folks on the other side, those agents will be there forever. So I don't know, but at least it worked last.
Okay, and then I want to kind of pose to you this as well. We know what happened on Capitol Hill yesterday, H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act. It passed 218 to 213. You know, you're running for Senate. There's an open seat here in Arizona in 2024. If you were a member on Capitol Hill, if you were there, a voting member, would you support H.R. 2? Do you have anything in there that you liked? I don't know if you've read what it entails, but would you have voted yes?
I haven't read all of it, but what I've heard, yes, I would have voted yes. It's sad to see that it became a partisan bill. You know, all the Democrats voted no, even Democrats like that from Texas that have been complaining about the border issue, they still voted against it. And we have been encouraging people to demand that Joe Biden not threaten to veto this bill. We've got to do something to start protecting our communities. The federal government's responsibility is to defend the American people, to provide for a common defense. And that includes protecting our borders. And that includes securing our borders and making people go through the orderly fashion of coming to this country through legal channels, not illegally.
Yeah, on the Senate side, what could be your opponent in 2024, incumbent and independent Kyrsten Sinema, she proposed a piece of legislation with Tom Tillis, the Republican from North Carolina, that would essentially codify Title 42, really, into federal law that would extend temporarily these expedited deportations for a certain period of time. Would you support that? It has some bipartisan support right now. Do you think that's a good idea?
You know, without reading all the details of it, on the face of it, I like it just because we've got to be able to give the Border Patrol some tools to use. It's not just COVID, scabies, tuberculosis, other sicknesses that we could be allowing to come into this country. because we don't have the ability to process people appropriately. We actually do have the ability. We don't have the willpower. You heard me say it on Jesse's show. I talked about at the height of Ellis Island, they processed 12 million people with a pencil and a pad of paper, and you can still go find those names of the people that came in. So we've got the technology, the manpower to do this right. There's a lot of immigration reform that needs to happen, but until then, we've got to secure our border. We cannot flood our communities with unknown quantities, people with who knows what kind of intentions or backgrounds, bringing in who knows what kind of diseases potentially, and then not to mention the fentanyl and all the other drugs that come along with it. It is just unacceptable, and it is also irresponsible to not secure our border and put American lives at risk every day.
Yeah, Sheriff Lim, I just want to talk about politics briefly, if we could, here to end. You're running for a Senate seat in a border state. If you win, you could very well likely have a voice, a say in making some of this policy there in the upper chamber. But I want to talk about your campaign. Give us a sense, give viewers a sense of how you are campaigning, where you are campaigning. What does it look like right now?
Well, Arizona needs a proven conservative fighter that's going to stand up for the people of Arizona and protect what we love, which is God, family, freedom, that's going to stand up and fight against this border crisis, that's going to help restore the economy, that's going to protect the rule of law. These are things that we expect in Arizona. The campaign is going great. We're getting a very good response. People want change in this state. They want to get back to what we were built on. And I hope your people across, your viewers, listeners, will come and support us at sherifflamforsenate.com. If you live in Arizona, sign the petition. But no matter where you live, if you want to give a donation, we will gladly take it, and we will represent you well. Ultimately, what I want, the way I want to run this campaign, is I want to win your vote. I want you to vote for me. I don't want to be the lesser of two evils. I want you to be excited when you get your ballot that this is going to be the guy that's best going to represent the people of Arizona, serve the people of Arizona, and protect the people of Arizona on a national level.
I know it's still early in the cycle, and we're obviously you have a primary ahead of you. No one, I don't believe, has declared. Do you think you'll have a primary opponent in this?
John Kyle has a saying, there's only two ways to run for office, scared and unopposed. I'm running this race as if I'm the only one in it, and it's I've always ran my races. I think you have to focus on the finish line and not everything around you. That's how I've won 2 elections thus far as a sheriff, and I intend on bringing that same mindset, focusing on my race, what I have to do, and I could use the support of anybody that wants to. And I'm going to give the website again. It's sherifflamforsenate.com. Come and support us. Let's get candidates that actually have a mandate higher than the ballot box back in office.
Do you anticipate, or are you seeking out an endorsement from the former President Trump? Will you ask for his endorsement in the primary?
You know, I don't do a lot of I don't do endorsements in the primaries. I would certainly take a lot of endorsements. I voted for President Trump in 2016, voted for him in 2020. I think all of us agreed that this country is in a much better place under his administration than it is under this administration. The economy, the border, all of these things. I just look forward to being a solid candidate for the people of Arizona. Helping them see that I'm going to be the guy that's going to be able to deal with the issues, those kitchen table items that Arizonans and Americans are dealing with, like the economy, like the border, like rule of law. That's what I think the people of Arizona want.
All right, Sheriff Mark Lamb, we appreciate your time. We'll definitely be speaking again. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.